Hello, and welcome back to Dollars and Dragons. I have here with me today Drew, aka Mudcat. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone listening. I am Mudcat or Drew, whichever you prefer. I am a producer and content creator, also the co-creator and producer of D20 Deathmatch is what you might have seen me on.
I see that you put on your rock and roll voice, like your stage present voice.
I got a radio voice.
We were just talking normally prior to this, and then you just put it on and like, oh, I'm on now. Okay.
I can't really turn it off. You know what I mean? It's like you when you've been creating content for so long, and someone says like record, it's like smooth jazz in the morning.
Yeah, I totally understand. I have the DM narration voice as well. So whenever I'm like, D20 Deathmatch is a Dungeons and Dragons 5e live stream show, and then when someone tells me that I'm narrating, like Deathmatch is a Dungeons and Dragons.
Luckily for our show, I get to default to just the metal screams most of the time. So it's a nice switch up from the radio voice.
Yeah, for sure. Did you ever sing in a band?
I've played and singed in a couple of different metal and scene bands back in the day. Not in recent times, but definitely in the past. I do have hopes that one day I'll be able to front a metal band again, because there's nothing like just screaming into a microphone for no reason.
Back in your glory days, as it were, was it a college band?
I played a little bit in college with some folks, but mostly high school stuff.
Okay.
A few things here and there afterwards, but never anything that was like testing or solid or anything like that. You get together with some folks, and you're like, let's form a band, and then you play like 3 times because life is life, and also your drummer sucks or whatever, and you're like, this sucks.
Yeah, your D&D scheduling, but for a band, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that's probably why most bands don't make it out of the garage.
Yeah, well, imagine that you're playing D&D with folks, but then they also have to like put in work during the week and practice and do homework and stuff like that. Like that shit would fall apart so fast. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse here.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's just hosted on my website, and Substack. So I can imagine. I do put together shows, and like finding the right people for shows, even when you're paying them, can be kind of difficult. So even finding people that are right for a band when you're not paying them, that'd be tough.
Yeah, it's I think that's a common theme of like just putting together shows or any sort of creative aspect with a group is just scheduling and then getting people to buy in, even if you are paying them. Like you said, like sometimes you pay people and they still don't show up prepared or whatever, and you're like, what did I just pay you for? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Have had these experiences where exactly that. I guess I don't really need to get into it, but like I just kind of like look at them and I'm just like, okay.
Well, you're a professional, huh?
Yeah, the bar is really low for those entering the streaming space, of course. You know better than most people. Getting ramped up for any sort of YouTube or Twitch presence or branding through these live streaming services takes quite a while. How did you get your start?
Well, I started content creation streaming 10, 11 years ago now, almost 11 years ago. Playing video games, played on Twitch for a while. After a few years, moved to Beam, just as it was kind of becoming Mixer. Became Mixer partnered there, and really kind of rose through the ranks playing Sea of Thieves, of all things, over there. Became a Sea of Thieves partner, did a bunch of stuff, kind of peaked out there at that platform, and then we moved back over to Twitch shortly before that platform collapsed. But over on Mixer, got started playing D&D while we were over there, and that continued for the last four years or so. And so after a couple of years of playing D&D on other people's stuff, we decided like, hey, let's do our own thing too. So a couple of years ago, we started D20 Deathmatch, and so it's just been a 10-year experience of streams, podcasts, YouTubes, Twitches, Mixers, whatever. I've done pretty much everything.
Yeah, that's definitely something that a lot of people, when you first talk to them about their first foray into either streaming or producing a show or anything like that, they ask that question and they're like, how do I get to streaming, and when should I expect to make it or make money doing this? And I'm like, well,
never.
Yeah, never, first of all. And then secondly, maybe maybe you can grow your audience within a year or two, or you can see progress, but you're not going to see progress for at least a year because there's so many people out there, first of all, who want to do that. The barrier of entry is so low. I think it's more likely right now that you win the lottery than you make minimum wage on Twitch, right? Statistically.
Yeah.
So of all the people who hit the start streaming button, to sort of approach that kind of thing with anything other than a long-term mindset for business growth, I think is folly. But for you, you've been in and out of it for over 10 years. What are some of the things that you did that you were most proud of prior to doing D20 Deathmatch?
Well, I talked about being a Sea of Thieves partner. That was really impactful to me and to my career. That's kind of when I say took off. Not really within reason, took off.
Right.
Started, making some actual money, and getting some notoriety for that game and that community. I was one of the first partners that partnered with Rare with Sea of Thieves for that game. I also was in the very first PvP competition they did at E3 called the Battle for LA, where I got second. Still sore about it.
Nice.
It also was in the Battle for Orlando. So their whole PvP initiative kind of like catapulted me, on the Mixer community. So that's one thing I'm super proud of. But that was also like years into my content creation, and it was like I had prepared for that moment. I was already calling myself the Pirate King of Mixer for no reason, just a branding thing. And people would come in and they would just bitch and moan at me about I could kick your ass and all this stuff. I'm like, it's working. Perfect. You know what I mean? So like
they hate me.
Just that whole exactly. That whole time of like Sea of Thieves like really taught me a lot about streaming, and through that I got to interact with brands and bigger folks as well, and got to really network outside of that small circle of people that you can network in when you only have like 10 viewers. You know what I mean? When you start pulling a few hundred viewers or something, people are willing to talk to you. And so that's opened up a lot of opportunities for people that I know in the industry, even now. Even though I don't really stream on my channel anymore, and I mostly focus on the D&D stuff, I still know people and stuff. So I think that's the crowning jewel in the achievements, because it just catapulted so many other opportunities for me.
I find that networking, first of all, is considered a dirty word to some people, but naturally, because of the bad examples of networking, for most people, when they're trying to establish themselves, they have a real difficulty separating themselves as a creative and then also going out and like being someone that can go out and chat with people and talk to people and like be somebody that's, I don't know, I hate to say cool, but like
personable.
A non-ass. Like you can be kind of an ass, I guess, if you're within the right company, but like for the most part, like when you're dealing with most folks in the industry, if you're like a streamer or anything like that, or game designer, maybe you only meet someone for once for like 20 minutes or something, and that's their impression of you for forever.
Oh yeah, well, and you especially like, so in that 10 years I've gone to so many conventions and things like that, and I've met people that work at some of the largest game companies that exist. I've met people that work at Microsoft, at Wizards, at all these places, and most of the time I had no idea who they were or where they worked. I just met them with some folks, and then later on I figured out we connected on Twitter or something. I'm like, oh well, that dude's the CEO of a company, or that guy's head of their creator programmer. And sometimes you meet people who are like nobody. They're just other content creators like you. I'm using nobody in that air quotes, like they don't have anything, necessarily in terms of credentials or anything like that. But then later on they become the community manager for a game, or they become a developer somewhere else, or they become huge on TikTok, or they, so like just not being an asshole goes a long way. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. I see this happen all the time where people they're super small and they'll reach out and they'll quote unquote shoot their shot in the industry by trying to tag like, I don't know, like Brandon Lee Mulligan, and they're like a like 5 viewer person. I'm just like, what are you doing? You should be working with and treating people well and working to create stuff with people at your level. And then every new project, maybe you like try and reach up and like work with somebody whose work you admire, who's like like a little bit bigger or has a little bit more in their portfolio every single time that you go back to the creative board, as it were, or if you're going to collaborate at least. But yeah,
Yeah. That's exactly kind of my mentality and our mentality on D20 Deathmatch kind of always has been that, like, whether it's streaming or whatever you're doing, if you're doing something creatively or even just in business, like, you want to be creating with people around your size or around your scope, because those are the people you have readily available to you and who are willing to put in the time, especially if you're not paying people,
Right.
or you can't pay people. Like, those are the people that are there's a mutual benefit there. You should never engage in a creative endeavor unless both parties are going to benefit in some way, whether that's enjoyment or monetarily or some sort of networking opportunity. You know, there should be some benefit for both parties. Otherwise, you shouldn't be doing it. And so until you can offer benefit to somebody who's a little bit higher than you, like, you know, even if you're a little smaller, but you have this kick-ass show that, you know will blow the walls off if they're on it, you know, that's something you can provide them. Even though you're not as big, you can be like, hey, we have a place for you to create something really cool. And that's something you can offer too. But you also want to work it the other way where, you know, as you grow, you know, you can reach down as well. You know, obviously you're probably not going to reach down to like somebody who just started yesterday, but, you know, working both directions at the same time is an ideal strategy. And you just keep moving your way up, and you keep reaching up a little bit, and you keep reaching down a little bit to pull some other folks up, because, you know, you may get that Brennan Lee Mulligan, but, you know, you're going to, and he's huge, right? And that may be good for your show or whatever, but you might, by reaching down or reaching sideways, you might get 50 other people who are very talented and create good content who you can take with you and continue to make content with. And, you know, if you know, let's say you do get Brennan Lee, but again, he's one dude. You know, it's one show, one person versus a pool of 50 people now that you could choose from. Like, it's just it's numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you're going to be able to maintain a relationship with people at your level for a long period of time. I started running shows, D&D shows, last year and a few months ago. I ran my first show. I reached out to the creator of a setting, and then we put something together, and I was using people within like my sphere of influence. And then for the next show after that, I reached out to some people that I had broad connections with or light connections with, and then I was like, hey, we're going to do this show. This is what we're doing. We ran a pilot. Kobo Press picked it up, and then it kind of went from there, and like all these other connections. So I think a lot of people skip those initial steps where you want to create something that is intriguing and interesting for other people to participate in first, instead of reaching out and like trying to make something happen out of the ether. Because if you're not providing someone with something, then yeah, why would they work with you?
Well, and from day one when we planned our D20 deathmatch, like, it's not like we weren't thinking that someday, yeah, we want to have you know, like Brennan Lee Mulligan on. That'd be great. Someday we would love to have someone like Matt Mercer. We really want to have Danny Trejo on our show, like real bad. Someday he's on our list. When we started, you know, because our show's episodic and we need new people every week, like we made a huge list of, yes, we made a list of people we would love to work with someday. Some, you know, some people we wanted to work with. We kind of just, you know, not to say this in a way that sounds bad, but we tiered people. You know what I mean? In terms of like, these are the people we cannot get. You know, these are the people that, you know, maybe we could reach out to a couple of these folks and shoot a shot because they're a little bit bigger than us. You know, and granted, when we came into the space, like, I stream, my wife streams, we're part of other D&D shows. Like, it's not like we were starting from zero here. So we did have connections in some of those places. And then we made a huge list of people, like, who do we know on Mixer or from Twitch or from wherever. And we didn't just focus on D&D folks. We were, you know, all streaming folks, all industry folks, because our format, we can just play with people who've never played. So for us, we sat down and we made a list. And I think that's important to do. Like, you know, who can you get on your show? Who is reasonable for your size and your network, and people that you know or friends of friends, especially as you're building something, you know, because you have no proof of concept. You know, we reached out, we did, you know, and in the early days, we shot some shots, you know, from, you know, we were like, hey, we're going to do this show. We'd love to kick it off with some really cool folks just to get the ball rolling. And a few said yes, a few said no. You know, as we've gotten to season 2 and 3, like, we've shot some big shots privately, and almost nobody has said no. It's usually a scheduling issue or a budget issue. issue. You know what I mean? So like we've definitely reached out to some folks, and I'm sure we'll have them on eventually someday. But it's not a no, it's a not right now.
Yeah, I found that to be kind of the situation with a lot on tabletop, especially is the not right now answer is very common because you can only take on so many projects a year.
Yep.
So I think it is important as it is to try and create something cool. It's also equally important to surround yourself with people you can actively work with throughout the year, which is why you see a lot of game designers and or streamers who collaborate. They often collaborate for a while with the same people because it's more cohesive that way. And then also you're in the same place to be able to lift each other up, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of individuals, you'll see like they've made like 3 different games in 1 year with like the same 4 people. And then the next year you might see like a slight change to like their team, I should say, or like, everything's like really muddied as far as like who's working where because of freelancing
right.
within tabletop. But you'll notice that. And then generally most of the requirement for working with people is like, do we get along and are we cool? And then of course, creatively, it's cool to have like similar goals. But yeah,
well, there's like you were saying, that you have to get along. There's so many factors to consider. And so like scheduling is a huge issue, obviously, like we were saying. We did the crazy thing of saying we're going to do new people every week. So we took that, the worst part of D&D, and just made it a regular thing for us. And it's onboarding people every single week, especially sometimes people who haven't played, teaching them how to play, teaching them how to make a character, teaching them how to and luckily we've gotten kind of streamlined at that, thanks to my partner Becca. She helped a lot with that because I'm terrible at that kind of being concise, as you can tell here. I like to ramble. So like we had to do that, and it's interesting. You just say the same people are like on the same shows over and over again, and that can be a frustration point, I think, for a lot of people too, because if you're trying to like get into this space or play with different folks and everybody's always playing together, but it's more convenient. It's easier to schedule people when you already know them, and we've developed that over a few seasons. We have some a few folks that we could call up moment's notice and be like, hey, we had someone drop tonight, would you come on the show? And that's nice to have those people in your circle to be like, you do things for them, they do things for you, and people you want to create with or enjoy creating with, or people that understand, especially for our show, is like, do you understand the concept? Like, you're not here to min-max kill somebody in one blow, and if you don't get that, then we're gonna have probably not a great time. And some people don't. Most people do, or they get it by the second half of the show. But that can be interesting because it's like, who can you work with? Who can you trust to show up? Who's flaky? You start to learn these things. Who can be dependable? And then you start to learn, like, as you start getting people on who are bigger and bigger, like sometimes just because they're popular doesn't mean they're great for your show. Also doesn't mean they're talented or funny or interesting or professional. Like some of the folks that people want are like climbing over each other to work with are, and sometimes the people that you are like, yeah, they're not for us. Like we don't want to work with them in our setting. Like it doesn't work. And that's something you have to consider too, and like be okay with saying, like, just because they're someone you could benefit your show doesn't mean you have to have them.
And absolutely, I hate to always harken back to like lessons learned. I should just have like a segment, lessons learned from that bronze girl. She operates purely off of vibes. So like if the vibes are off, like she's like, nah. And she just doesn't have time to deal with a lot of stuff. So
sure.
I think that really is right on the nose for a lot of people. Being able to work well with someone it's pretty important as far as like getting a good product out, especially when the art itself is collaborative.
Yeah, and it can be hard to find those folks. And with our show, we've had to put ourselves out there a lot, because we have to have new people all the time. We've met new people all the time, and a lot of times when we play with people, we've never played with them. We quickly learned that the people that playing against each other should know each other already, if we can possibly do that, because that makes things way easier. They already have a relationship, they play together, they're friends. It kind of gets the juices going of the trash talk and stuff, because we want people to come out and trash talk and swing for it. We don't want it to be awkward, and I know that table chemistry is important. So we try to just, we used to be like, we'll just take whoever we can get. Now we're like, okay, let's find pairs of people who know each other, or at least in adjacent circles. And we're getting pretty good about, even if they don't know each other, picking people that can sit down and like be like, okay, yeah. And as we've gone in season 1, 2, 3, we've gotten really good about picking people that are like, okay, that person's improv style or humor or comedy or dryness or whatever would fit in our show, and those people's style, that would be hard to work with. You know what I mean? We've getting really good at picking out the right fits for our shows and the right fits for people against each other. Like you and Dan, when you were on our show, it was like, oh yeah, you guys, you all know each other, and we try to do that as much as we can, just so there's some sort of rapport there, even if it's like loose.
Yeah, it's always a joy to work with Dan, and I think that absolutely, you're talking about all this shit that I geek out about, as far as like being a producer and like, well, how does this actually work? Like, what's the behind the scenes stuff that we need to do? The stuff that nobody knows exists if you haven't put together a show before. Paying attention to casting chemistry is immensely important, especially for like, I would say it's a different challenge. I wouldn't say it's harder or easier than a long-term casting, but like it's definitely different. So like you have to be mindful of different things, in my opinion. For me, casting long-term shows, I can figure it out over 2 or 3 weeks if a cast works together, because I can have them work together and like run some practice runs and see like, is this working? If it doesn't, then we can just try again with another group. Whereas with you, like it's like you really have to call it your shot. So I find that to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and sometimes we miss.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes
things, yeah.
sometimes we miss. We've gotten a lot, like our season 3 for me has been some of the most fun and engaging casting that we've had. Not to say that I didn't enjoy season 1 and 2. Like there's things that I enjoyed about every single show we've had. But I just, like, if you look at it on a scale, like it has trended upward talent wise. And that's not just due to us pulling like better talent or to say like that these people are better than these people. A lot of it's us getting better as DMs, because we're co-DMing, we're throwing these people into a scenario they probably don't understand, and we're getting better and more efficient about explaining it, about, you know, figuring out how to, when things get awkward or get weird, how do we cut that shit out? If things are unbalanced, how do we just fucking break the rules and rebalance it so it's not stupid, you know? So like we are getting better at DMs, and the more you play with different kinds of people, I think that's one benefit of our show, is like you have to get really, really quick at sizing up your players and what they want and what they think is fun and what they don't think is fun, and where they think they're, you know, even though they'll tell you, we do have documents where like, hey, where are your, you know, your lines and your veils and all this stuff. Like, you know, sometimes they don't tell you, you know what I mean? Or they don't remember something, or, you know, so you get pretty good at picking up like when someone's like, oh, this is awkward, you know what I mean? Or you, so that's just, it's like having to DM, but it's just doing it on the fly. And I honestly think the longer casting is harder though. If I had to engage between the two, I think that's the harder one, because we can sit people down, and even if it's a little awkward, we're done in 2 hours. You know, if you've signed on for a 40-week campaign, like you're fucking stuck. You know what I mean? Like that's rough. That's a nightmare for me. I would not want to. I wouldn't want to do it.
As someone who's done that, I agree. It is. It especially can be, because for stream shows, the reality is, like, especially like at our level, like we're not paying people so much. They can just, like, you know, this is not the priority in their day, even a lot of the time. Even if we're paying like above a normal rate, or we're hitting them with like $50 for a 2-hour appearance, which is decent money. It's like $25 an hour, right? Yeah. It can be difficult because not everybody's coming with the same headspace. Like, it's not going to crush them if they lose this gig, because we don't have the sort of clout to where they would weigh it as heavy as like if they got onto a show with, like, I don't know, like B. Dave Walters or something. Obviously that's going to bear a very significant difference in how they approach it because of how they perceive it.
Yeah, it can be rough to motivate folks in that way, and that's, I think that comes down to part of the casting process too, of just like choosing the right people for your show, choosing people that get it, that want to be a part of it just because they want to be a part of it. And, you know, full transparency, we do pay people. At this point, the show pays for itself. Not much after that, but, you know, it pays for itself, you know, and that's
your labor. I said, yeah, except your labor, right?
Yeah, except for that.
Okay, yeah.
Except for our labor, no. You know, luckily we're fortunate that we both stream on and do other content on the side, and we both have full-time jobs. Like, so it's not our main focus in terms of money making. So we're able to forego, you know, taking that money. We don't need that money to survive. We're able to one of our main goals with the show was always to, from day one, we paid. And because so many people don't, you know what I mean? And I get it that they can't, but for us, because of our situation and, you know, it's because this wasn't a full-time thing, we made it a priority of like, people are giving us their time and we want to show that we appreciate that and that it, you know, means something. And we wanted to, you know, in some small way change the industry in terms of like making it a standard practice, you know, because we've played for years and years without getting paid on various shows. And sometimes it's bullshit, you know what I mean? It's just like sometimes it's not worth your time. So, you know, we at least want to compensate people, even if they don't have a great time and it's not for them and they come on and are like, yeah, that sucked. Like at least they got some value out of it in some way. We hope that's not the case, but we want to, you know, value people's time and have them value our time as well. Because when you pay people, then, you know, sometimes they still don't show up prepared or things, but they tend to a little bit more. They tend to take it a little more seriously because it is a paid gig, because so many of their gigs aren't paid. You know what I mean? Even if they don't need the money, they're like, oh, they're gonna pay me, you know, and they're gonna pay me on time and they're gonna pay me quickly and they're gonna, you know, like we're not messing around with it. We pay people. We make sure we take care of folks when we can. We've trying to work it up. You know, every time we go to pitch sponsors or something like that, it's always for the purpose of people more, or also putting money in our pocket to pay, you know, which will have a bigger budget. You know what I mean? So getting those people in that are going to cost you like $500 for 2 hours or more, maybe. Who knows?
You hit on a couple of things that I think are key things to keep in mind, especially when you're getting into either content creation or running shows or producing or anything like that. And the first is you have a full-time job. And that's been the case since you've been doing it. And I know that it is very rare actually in this sort of industry to be full-time as a content creator, because you have to build up your community to be so large before you can support something like that. What's it been like for you as you're working your full-time job and growing this on the side? What's your hourly input?
It used to be a lot. There was a time back when I was on, Mixer and Sea of Thieves and stuff, 8 hours a day at my job, and I would stream 8 to 12 a day. And then and that was every day. And I'd sleep. There's a solid maybe 2.5 years where I slept 2 hours a night.
Wow.
And it's kind of like, you know, I've never been in the military, but you have. And I know friends in the military that kind of equate that your body kind of just gets used to that. You know what I mean? Like when you have to stay up and you're forced to stay up for all day, every day, and you can sleep at a moment's notice and, you know, and then you just keep functioning. I've heard people kind of tell me that, you know, about those experiences. And I was like, yeah, I kind of did that to myself. You know, there was for no reason. At the time, there was a reason, but
I would say for most people that would never function correctly. But like I do know people like my uncle who can sleep 4 hours and then that's all he needs. Yeah. That's a very small subset of the population. But like I've noticed that people who do that long term, obviously, very negative health. And you are more able to do that when you're younger as opposed to older, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, there definitely got to a point I kind of stopped that a couple of years ago and I was just like, yeah, I can't do it anymore. And not only that, but it was when I was doing it was advantageous for me to stream overnight. And it stopped being advantageous. So I stopped doing it, you know? Mm-hmm. But now with like D20 Deathmatch in the past seasons, like still put in quite a good amount of hours, you know, on top of the day job. Like obviously we do our show, which is 2 hours, and then the after show. But I also, you know, I handle most of the production stuff. So every week it's getting OBS ready with the new overlays and assets. We run a merch store, so it's luckily my partner has taken that over, but I used to put, you know, several hours into the merch store a week, either designing or uploading or SEO optimization. Then there's editing things immediately after the episode's over. I spend the next couple hours editing it down for podcast or for YouTube or whatever it needs to be cut for, cutting out breaks or whatever. Which is not that significant. And then there's, 5 to 20 hours a week editing clips sometimes, depending on the show. When we had the Perception Studio folks on, I spent the next day 12 hours straight editing 32 clips from that episode for TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff, which lasted a month, which is great. So it kind of just depends. Luckily, I've gotten to the point where like the show stuff, like getting the assets ready, and as long as there's no hiccup with the folks creating their stuff, like I can pretty much do it day of if I need to, or in a couple hours. But even now that I've kind of pared things down and I kind of streamlined a lot of stuff for myself. It probably still takes 30 hours a week, 20 hours a week, depending on a light week maybe.
Yeah, that's a pretty big commitment.
Well, and we're also running a new show called Into the Mirror, and I've got a couple other shows I'm trying to, plan, and scheduling's a nightmare with that and all that stuff. And we play on with Captain Robert a couple of times a week. One show just ended, so it's like once a week now. But so that's also 8 hours a week that I couldn't do anything for our show. That's like set aside for someone else, or somewhere else. It's a lot of time.
Have you noticed, and this is purely anecdotal, so I won't audience should understand that this is per your perspective, but have you noticed that there is much, I don't want to say like benefit, but like when you collaborate with people and like you appear on their show once and you guest, have you noticed any particular bumps or anything like that when you do stuff like that? Because that seems like to be the common theme as to what people think is going to be like, quote unquote, their big break.
I don't think that appearing on, well, let me just preface this by starting to say is I actually don't get asked to play very much. I'm on the long-term shows I'm on because, we've been doing it for 4 years. Occasionally someone will ask me, I was just over on Winter's Tale for their 24-hour stream. I've worked with a couple of folks at Part-Time Heroes. They're doing some really cool stuff. They're just kind of starting out. So occasionally someone will reach out, but like for me, I don't really get asked a lot. My partner, Becca, she gets asked all the time. So, and I'm just objectively like a better role player, a better actor, a better, better human being, probably. You know what I mean? Like she's just, more engaging and than I am. We're
this
just
is
very
now
different.
the Becca podcast.
Yeah. Let me just go get her from the other room and she can take over from here because probably more interesting. But so I don't get asked to play a lot. But so for me, definitely not. But I think in general, I think consistency is important. It's not about the one-time appearance on a show. It's about becoming recognizable in the community. Even in your circle, if you've got a circle of 10 or 12 people you play with regularly on different shows, popping over for a show and then you're over here and then you're over here. Because a lot of the audience is shared. So someone might see you on a show once and be like, oh, okay, cool. Who's this person? Whatever. But then they see you again on another show. And they're like, oh, I've seen this person before. It takes a couple of times, I think, for people to like seeing you play somewhere before they start taking notice of like your skill or lack thereof, one of the two. But like because it's like even if you watch a show, like if you watch me right now, I'm playing a Spelljammer campaign with like Runaway Robot and Dana Taj and I'm Cat and some folks on Fridays, like a short like 10 episode thing. But like on there, I'm playing a auto gnome artificer who talks like a Southern gentleman and fires off his pistols into the air. You know what I mean? So if you come in and you see that and that's not really your jam, you may not like me. Where else you can come over to D20 Deathmatch where I'm really just acting mostly like myself, just kind of a little bit more assish as the arbiter. Or, you come over to other shows where I'm doing whatever accent this is. I don't know what it is, but I do it sometimes and it just comes out. You know what I mean? So like, that's the other weird part about D&D is they may see you somewhere and they're like, oh, I just thought that's how you were or how you talk, but you can do these other characters or these other stories or this other. So like, it takes people a while to watch you. So I think a one and done, like, oh, you're famous now is a no shot in this industry unless that one shot's like Critical Role or something. Then maybe.
Yeah, I saw there was a huge bump for like Jasmine Socials, but not like when she went on D20, the other D20, sorry, Dimension 20. When she was on that, obviously, because it's like such a huge platform. But yeah, even like her being on Critical Role at one time wasn't a huge bump for her, if I remember correctly. It's just a matter of, for most of it, it's the sad truth that people probably don't want to confront, like especially when they're trying to build whatever it is they're trying to do and become a creator. It just takes a lot of work, and follow through and consistent work is more important than like a ton of work. So
yeah, well, and there's definitely the flavor of the week type of situation that happens as well in this space, and I think that's true about any creative space, whether it's just gaming or whatever. TikTok, just there's trends and fads that happen, and folks will be are being hyped up and they're being on every single Wizards of the Coast show and they're on Dimension 20 and they're on Critical Role and they're on every little show in between because everybody's clamoring to get them on their show, whether they're actually, you know, like we talked about earlier, whether they're actually is not really important at that aspect. It's like everybody wants to work with them because they're popular at this moment. And that's great because, you know, maybe you can mutually benefit off of those things. But, you know, that fades. People that were, unless you're going to keep being on those shows, Critical Role, on Dimension 20, unless you're going to keep showing up, people are going to forget. You're not just talking about, you're talking about a whole collective of people, you know what I mean? And some people are going to be into things and into different things. And, you know, and that it's not a stagnant audience. It's an audience that comes and goes. New people filter in, old people filter out. So even the memory of those people fades because the same people that viewed those shows maybe aren't even in the community anymore. So you have to consistently put yourself out there and the name for yourself, and in my opinion, build your own stuff, because, you know, if you want to be known for something, then you're probably gonna have to do it yourself.
Absolutely. And talking of, now that we've shifted to talking about making your own stuff, let's talk about Into the Mirror. All right, so Into the Mirror, tell our audience what it is and like how you conceived of it and like what you think it's moving towards.
So Into the Mirror is a new show that we just started. I DM it, and I have a awesome cast. It's Big Daddy Tej, Anubis, Miss Magitech from Magi RPG on Twitch, and then Parallax Stella. All those are, you know, Twitch people mostly, except for Tracy, Miss Magitech, who is focused on D&D content as well. But so it's a show that actually is a derivative show of D20 Deathmatch. We did in season 2, we did the Fate of the Arbiter, which was this whole, I won't do the spoiler of like the plot, but it was this whole thing about the Arbiter and these folks needing to rescue him. And so it was the three, Tej and Tracy and Anubis, going out to do that. And so we did like a 3-part show that kind of culminated in our season finale Battle for the Crown, which was the Arbiter versus the Grandmaster. And so their stories kind of tied in there. And in that series, you know, one of their comrades died, you know, in the final battle in our season 2 finale, and so this just kind of picks up with that group, and they're basically traveling to the underworld to go retrieve their friend. So basically that's it. And we picked up Parallax Stella on because I was like, we need someone to balance out this kind of group, and so I asked her to come on. She agreed, and so it's kind of picking up from there narratively, but it's an offshoot. It's not directly impacting anything in the show anymore. It's just kind of its own thing in the universe. But the interesting thing about that is, as different from our, you know, D20 Deathmatch is a 2-hour episodic show. We have had a series of like 3 shots of like mini campaigns because I like short-term stuff. This is a long-term campaign, but it is edited down in a way where episodes are between 10 and 25 minutes for the most part, and I re-soundtrack them and I add in sound effects and take kind of the podcast approach to it. It's kind of my newest strategy about putting out D&D content in shorter form, getting more bang for my buck on YouTube.
How do you find that right now? I think you've put out a lot of content on YouTube. I don't think I've counted. It looks like, well, if we're talking about D20 Deathmatch, it looks like at least 60 videos.
Oh, there's more probably.
80?
Well, if you count the shorts, it's hundreds.
Oh yeah, I'm just on the long form. That makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Now that they've separated shorts, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. There's, let's see, it was like 14 episodes season 1, 20 in season 2, and 17 in season 3. So 40 some episodes of D20 Deathmatch, plus extras, plus shorts, plus extra series. So yeah, there's probably like 60 some videos maybe in terms of like main videos.
Yeah, I think the average across YouTube was that you will publish 100 videos before you hit 1,000 subscribers, and like most people, when they find that out, they're just like, oh shit, good fucking luck, you better get to work.
Subscribers are hard on YouTube. It's like anything else in content creation. It's a consistency. Consistency doesn't matter how bad your content is. If you are consistent, you will get 1,000 people to eventually, you know, gel with whatever you're making, you know, whether it's ironically or not, that's up to them. But, you know what I mean? Like, eventually, if you keep beating your head against the wall, it'll crack. That is something I've learned over 10 years. But that's not always that's not always the smartest option. There are probably faster ways to do it and better ways to do it. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get that, and that's why I've with Into the Mirror. I actually don't like watching long form D&D. If I'm being honest, I don't like sitting down for 4 hours or 2 hours even. And we did D20 Deathmatch to kind of combat that 4 hour thing. It's like 90 minutes or 2 hours because that's more palatable to us. But even that for me is like that's pushing my limit of what I'll watch. And so for me, it was important to like, well, what if I just record a 4 hour session and then I cut that into 8 episodes that are like, depending on how the scenes break up, that are like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or, and then I can re-soundtrack them and make them a little bit better, do a really quick stinger intro. That way we can just get right into the content. No intros, no, this is who's playing on the show. No, all that stuff. Because YouTube's not designed, the current model of D&D shows. Like nobody wants to sit through your 15-minute intro where you talk about everyone's Twitch channel.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, for sure. They want the content within the first 30 seconds or they leave.
And so it's just been that's kind of how we're structuring this new content going forward. Just trying to take our 4 hour session, which I can do like once a month rather than playing every week or a couple times a week, and just make it go further. And then the people that miss 8 weeks of episodes and binge it all in 4 hours, and like I said earlier, I like shorter campaigns. I don't like weekly campaigns because I feel like it's hard to keep the pacing. I like very cinematic style shows. If you watch any of my shows, it's going to be pretty much a straight 3-act structure, of like we're going on this. It's a movie. I'm going to montage. We're not going to travel. We're not, unless you really want the shopping scene, we're not going to do it because I want every scene to be impactful. We're not going to bullshit in the tavern for just not going to happen in the games I run, for content. Maybe at my table at home for content, right. Like nobody wants to watch you talk for 8 hours about your sob story or whatever. They want the scene to be impactful and be moving somewhere, like a movie, like a TV show. So that's what I think about when I make things, and I'm just like, well, if I do one episode a month, I can make sure that I cut it into 8 chunks or whatever, so it lasts a lot longer. It's shorter. People can watch it on their break at work, but it also it allows me as a DM to make sure that every moment is impactful. There's no wasted moments.
I think a lot of people also get themselves in such an oversaturated market with D&D shows. Like, yeah, they'll come just because we're funny. They're going to sort through tens of dozens of hundreds of hours of content to find the 2 moments that were really funny in your show. So you have to be doing something post-production in order to get people to watch, for sure.
A lot of people are funny out there, and yeah, you hit on it with the post-production, but not just if you're doing live stuff, even this is something that kind of tugs at me. Because I'm for me, I'm always looking to increase the production value. If I could mail everyone a computer and a camera and an XLR microphone that comes on our show, if I could physically mail everyone something, because when people pop on and they're streaming out of a toaster or something like that, I'm like, God, the internet's dropping. I'm like, it crushes my soul because between seasons, I did even little things like animating the overlays so they move. It's just these things that no one really even notices, but I notice it just adds to the overall structure of things, or soundtracking things live and organizing things so you can pull up music live and actually have the music fit the scene, and all these little things that you can do to increase audio. And I started recording all of our shows on a separate computer so I could record every audio track individually, so that way when I make clips, I can have clean cameras and clean audio with no overlays, so that'd be better quality. And it's a lot more work, but it's also one thing. If you go watch our clips on TikTok and you watch our old clips versus our new clips, they're night and day quality difference. And if you go watch our clips versus somebody else's clips, quality wise, in terms of production wise, night and day difference, because I re-soundtrack the clips too. I don't just use the existing audio. I'm that doesn't fit. I'm gonna there's always little things that you can do, and not that is the end all be all. As long as you have okay audio, people will listen. But I think there's a lot of people in the space that call themselves producers that don't do a lot of production, if that makes sense. They don't care about their quality as much as they probably should. Not meaning to call anyone out, or if you enjoy your show, fucking hit it hard and wish it well. But for me, it's just I die a little bit inside when I see those things. I'm like, man, if you just did this little thing in OBS, this little thing here, if you just learned this little trick or something, like it'd be night and day, and like you'd be setting yourself apart so easily from other people.
Yeah, and I think you also are allowing yourself more freedom taking those extra steps, because then you have more control about what the medium turns out as.
Mm-hmm.
If you're limiting yourself to really the lowest common production value, then you are limiting yourself to like a Zoom call with very granular audio and video. There's not a lot you can do with that.
I'm just going to go ahead and say this out there. So if you're out there, you're listening, you're a DM, you want to start streaming your games, or on YouTube, Twitch, you want to record them, whatever, stop using Zoom. There are other programs that cost same price as Zoom that will stream 1080, 4K, 60 FPS, bitrate audio. We use ping.gg for ours. They're great. They're a little bit more expensive. But if you've got a budget, that's cool. But there are other free programs out there that are gonna knock Zoom just out of the park. So quit using Zoom, please, for the love of God. Just quit it.
For next year, 2023, or as of recording this is the end of December. What's your plan for 2023 as far as like your content, and what direction are you moving? What do you think the future of your space is?
We had a lot of things planned, mostly just more chaos. I've been talking about this show for a long time. I have a Mork board game that I'm working on getting produced with the puppets from Perception Studio. And I've announced this so many times, so I don't feel bad about talking about it, even though the scheduling just keeps. We were supposed to start recording in October. Scheduling conflict. So one of these days this year, we're gonna hammer it down, and it's gonna be a Mork Borg anthology series. It's gonna be a meat grinder where the puppets they play a character, that character dies, new character just walks in off the street. We're just gonna roll a new character on the spot, just improv, and just get real weird with it. Death metal playing everywhere, and make it super violent and super gory. That's a passion project of mine. I will beat it into submission. So far I haven't been able to yet, but one of these days I will wrangle the cast, and they're on board. It's just like it's the classic. It's a scheduling thing. Like, just when can we all sit down on different time zones and different whatever. So that's coming down at some point, and I'm super excited for that. I think that's going to be a very fun show. Maybe my favorite show. I already know. So I've got that.
Morkborg is really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And the folks from Perception Studio, we've had them on the show a couple of times, but if you haven't checked them out on Twitch or wherever, like, they're so funny. They're so talented, and they're very, very kind and nice people, and just willing to create content. And like, they're just really good folks who make some really good shit. And they're one of my favorite groups out there, just because their banter and their improv is it's just so in line with our humor and stuff. Like, it's just so good. So definitely check them out if you haven't yet. But so that's coming down the way. We have a couple other shows that are going to be in the same vein of, like, I think we have a lot of anthology shows we're planning, where it's 1 to 2 hours, probably going to be edited down to 15 to 20 minute episodes. We'll probably chunk them like we do the rest of it, just because I think that's going to be a better model moving forward. It'll depend on how the content is, but if it makes sense or not. But definitely have some anthologies coming. We probably are going to do more D20 Deathmatch limited series of like lore and stuff like that, and side stories. So that's always going to be coming. Season 4 of D20 Deathmatch, and then we'll have 2 live shows probably this year.
Oh, really?
One is unannounced, and then the other one will be at GCX 2023 here in Orlando. We did GCX a live show in 2022, and if you haven't watched it on our YouTube yet, you probably should. It's chaos to the highest degree from day one. And this is a tangent here, so sorry. From day one, we planned to, like, being a live show was always our plan. It was like, how do we do this in a live setting, in a live place, and make it like a rock concert? Not make it a D&D show where you sit at a table and everyone just plays D&D. We want it to be a concert. You know what I mean? Like, just a metal concert, a show where people are running around and screaming. And I have a vision someday of blood cannons, like Guar style, shooting out in the audience and shit, like just a spectacle. And we were able to do that for the first time at GCX, and just over a year after we launched, or just under 2 years after we launched, we were able to do that, working with the folks from Rare Drop to bring our stuff to their convention, and it was just chaos, just screaming around, rolling inflatable dice, getting audience to roll dice for us, playing with swords on stage. Just like it was chaos. And so like that's our vision. And so we'll have at least two of those coming in 2023.
That sounds super cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. That looks...
Yeah, well, we were like, they were like, oh, well, we got a table for you and some microphones with stands. And I'm like, no, we need handheld microphones. Get rid of the chairs. We don't need them. Like, we're going to be running in the crowd. Like, this is not a panel. It's not a D&D show. This is a rock concert. Just think of it that way. So that's so the goal.
Yeah, I think, that's super cool. I think one of those things also that you're hitting on that's important to focus on when you are creating content is like, what are you doing differently, and how are you putting your twist or your special flavor on your content in your niche? And you've definitely like hit something that's very unique and has been growing because of it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people just don't ever either find that, or they don't reflect enough in order to find that. But you put obviously so much of yourself and your partner into what it is that you're doing that is really...
Yeah, it's just something like, we love like Mystery Science Theater 3000 and like the episodic structure of that. And that's our show's based loosely off that kind of stuff, and Celebrity Deathmatch, and it's just fun, and
I
obviously
love all those shows.
Yeah, and it's the PvP aspect, but like honestly, like it's not like a min-max PvP, because that would be boring. Don't want to get too far into it, but if other PvP shows out there that they usually go off the rails because they try to stick to raw. And when you do that, you're just going to end up with 2 10th level wizards one-shotting each other, or whatever, like it's not made for that. So you can't pretend, like it is. So you either are able to bend with the rules or break them, or you don't. And that's why why it took that structure of like a WWE match, and because it's more about that, the show and the Undertaker rising from the grave, and stuff like that. Than it is about like, let's build min-max characters, which is also fun. I also fucking love doing that. So yeah, but it's super unique, and I definitely I had the advantage of obviously having a partner who is also there to help, and she makes up for any deficiencies that I have as a DM or a producer, or dealing with people in terms of like communication styles and things like that. And it's very helpful, especially because some people would rather, to be frank about it, like some people, when I show up in their DMs asking them to play, they're like, who's this white dude? You know what I mean? They're not into it. So it's nice to have, other representation in our team of me and her that, people are more comfortable talking to her. If they're, more comfortable talking to me, they talk to me, and like, and we can kind of reach a larger audience of players and folks, because we are diverse a little bit more as a team. And we also focus on bringing diverse people in as much as we can to our show. It's a big sticking point for us as well, on top of paying people. So that definitely helps. And all the things that she does on the side of like the graphics and the back end, and a lot of like the lore work that we do together and stuff, is just like super helpful to have a team member that like compliments me, and hopefully I compliment her. I won't speak for her, but
we'll find out when she's on the podcast.
Ooh. Rough.
Well, if she accepts,
she'll probably be like, "Fuck that guy, I hate him. He doesn't do shit around here."
Yeah, you didn't have to tell people you were a white guy on my podcast. They can't see you, so
I'm not hiding it.
With that being said, did you have anything that you wanted to present to my audience before we wrap here?
To present, wholly unprepared for this. I would just say, if you haven't checked out D20 Deathmatch yet, just come check us out over on YouTube. Definitely check out Into the Mirror, because that one's going to be ongoing in between our seasons. So the new season doesn't start for a month or so. But other than that, I think I would just challenge people to do something weird, do something different. Stop doing the 4-hour D&D shows. Stop trying to be a clone of this show or that show or whatever, and just like find something that you think is funny or unique or interesting, and just go do it. Don't ask permission, just do it.
Yeah, and if you've got 10 minutes, you could watch me on D20 Deathmatch, episode 15.5, 9 minutes and 55 seconds, because it has editing. So.
Oh no, that's the after show. That would be the
my bad.
Season 3, episode 15. That should be probably under the live tab.
Oh yeah, it is under the live tab. That's right. Well, either way, thank you so much for coming on, and y'all take care. Thanks so much for listening to the Dollars and Dragons podcast. If you'd like to support me, and more importantly, my editor who does all of the heavy lifting here, then you can subscribe to patreon.com/isfriday. And that is going to go straight to my editor. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.